Welcome to the Young Dementia Network webinar. Lovely to have you all join us today. I'm Tessa Guttridge. I'm chair of the Young Dementia Network. Today's topic is the wonderfully warm topic of generosity, and we really could use a lot of that right now, couldn't we? We have some lovely panelists from Stand DEEP group talking about the benefits of giving and receiving peer support. Just to mention that panelists can be seen and heard throughout the webinar, and attendees can't be seen and can't be heard, but we would encourage your participation using the Q&A and using the chat function. And when you use the chat function, don't forget to direct to panelists and all attendees so that everybody can read everything or all the chat throughout. I think that's it for now. Just handing over now to our lovely Stand group and Rachel.
Thank you very much indeed, Tess, and thank you so much for the opportunity for us to be broadcasting to the UK, the universe, the world, everywhere. And don't be intimidated by that, folks. Don't be intimidated by that.
Big words.
So Stand is a fantastic group that I would say have just absolutely grown from strength to strength in the last 12 months, where it's been an incredibly difficult time for many, many groups. I think you're a shining light and a shining example of positivity. And when Tess and I first spoke about being included in this webinar session, I think that not only your group, Stand group, kind of just shines out about generosity, but I think all of the groups in the network have really shown that spirit of kindness and generosity and friendship and love with each other as well. So first of all, we're going to start with asking, well, Jerry, I think, come to you to maybe describe what Stand is. What does Stand stand for in the beginning anyway?
Absolutely, Rachel. Good afternoon, everybody. I was diagnosed with young onset Alzheimer's just over 2 years ago now at the age of 55. And at that time in Fife, there was absolutely nothing at all for people under the age of 65. Everything was aimed at people over 65. So when I was diagnosed, I went along to a couple of Alzheimer's Scotland meetings, and to be honest, they weren't for me. At the stage that I'm at, I found them a bit infantile, a bit childish. Perfect probably for further down the stage, but for me at that time, it wasn't any use at all. So I approached our specialist nurse and asked if there is any chance of maybe trying up a peer support group in Fife for people under the age of 65, because there was absolutely nothing. And I kind of badgered her and begged her, and then through our support nurse Maggie and Ruth, they came up with a young onset dementia group, which is now Stand, and it's been absolutely phenomenal.
And what does Stand stand for, Jerry?
It's striving towards a new day. I think that name comes from Irene. We had a wee competition at the start of the group. I think it was. Was it yourself, Irene, that came up with that name? I think it was. We had a competition at the start of the group. I think it was for people to name the group.
Claim it.
No. I'm sure it was Irene. I came up with some stupid names, but Irene came up with some really good names, so. And I think at the end of the day, it was Irene's name that was chosen, and it's. I think we've never looked back since, to be honest. It's something that was totally missing in Fife. I mean, I had my wife and my kids, and I had great support from Ruth as well, who's from Dementia Friendly Fife. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. I needed to speak to people and just be in the company of people who were just going through the same process as I was. Really, I needed to spend company in like-minded people, and that's the way. That's how Stand actually came into being. Yeah, it was amazing.
Thank you, Jerry. And I think it's really important to recognise the priceless contribution from Ruth as facilitator in getting this off the ground, and she's really modest about this. I guess, Irene, would like to ask you about how important that role of having Ruth as a facilitator and kind of getting it going has been, really.
Oh, hugely significant, Rachel. Much more significant and important than we really have the words for is the answer. Ruth has opened up a whole new world to me. I wasn't as brave as Jerry, so before Stand was formed, I hadn't ventured out into the world at all, really. My world became very small and it was just me and a few close friends and family. And when the group was formed, I met Ruth at that time, and Ruth has just made my life worth living, and the opportunities that she provides within the group, but also we've gone and worked in dementia friendly Fife sessions all across the council, in classrooms, in libraries, in youth clubs, in high schools, you name it, we've been in them. And I was a teacher in my other life, and all these skills had just died. And through the work I've undertaken with Ruth, those skills have come alive again. I have met people in my own area. I have connected with people in much wider. And honestly, Ruth and the group gave me my life back. I had lost all purpose, all part of, couldn't see where I belonged in the world. And that is really different now.
I've just noticed that there's been a question in the chat box to kind of remind people what stands for. And as you were the person that chose the name, would you like to remind people what Stand actually stands for?
Yes, it's striving towards a new day. Because we feel in the world of dementia, sometimes just getting up in the morning and starting new and making a new day important is what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there was a question actually about what does DEEP mean as well. We're all against acronyms and saying we need to explain things, and we forget to do it sometimes. But DEEP is about dementia engagement and empowerment, and I think that goes hand in hand with your philosophy for Stand as well, isn't it? It's about that kind of positivity and having voices heard, really. So thank you, Irene. And Audrey, as somebody who you live by yourself, and I guess I wonder what the power of the group means to you.
It means a lot to me because I live myself, and it's great to meet up with Irene and Jerry and Ruth, and they've just become like members of my family. So without them, then I wouldn't have anybody. I would be more or less on my own. So when you get the opportunity to do things with them, then I take it. It gives me a purpose to get up and get on and think, well, I'm not alone. I've got people supporting me.
And I know that one of the things that you asked for ahead of this meeting today was that you need people to remind you that it's going to happen. And so you might get an email like ahead of time, but actually you need that text. And when we were planning that, both Jerry and Irene said, oh, we'll send you a text message, we'll remind you. And there's something that kind of feels very, very strong about that sense of friendship and looking after each other within the group.
As long as somebody phones me, then I can, that's what I'm going to be doing in the afternoon, because sometimes I forget to check my phone. So if somebody phones me, then I think, oh, 2:15, you have to be online, and then I'm good to go.
Oh, my dog's barking now. Jerry, you go.
I was just going to say that, Rachel. Yeah, and I think that's the group's strength is the bonds of friendship. I mean, when you think about it, there's about 20 people in our group, all complete strangers. Just a year or so ago, like a couple of years ago, like didn't know each other from Adam, and within probably, I would even probably say the first time of meeting, something just sparked. And I think it was just the fact that we were all in the same boat. We all shared the same experiences as such. We knew what each other was going through, and we helped each other, and that was, and we supported each other, and nobody judged each other. And I think that's what made the group so strong. Like we're not out to make points or to can be really strong activists. The whole point of the group is to support people living with dementia and their wives and husbands and families and partners, and that was the ethos of the group, and that's I think that's what's made it so strong. Like,
it's really interesting you say that about not setting out to be activists, but it's fair to say you've become, one of the main points of reference for the Scottish government about their dementia strategy, and and it's because of Jerry that the Scottish government have actually done an audio version of the latest transition plan, isn't it? Because you spoke up and said that's important to me, and they listened and they did it.
Yeah, you're right, Rachel. Actually, I mean, because with my dementia, my concentration levels are pretty poor. So reading a document 100 pages or so would have been impossible for me. And I was involved. We were all involved. The whole group was involved in with the Scottish government, and so I suggested that to make it easier for me, they would either break it down into small sections or make an audio version that I could just listen to at my pleasure, and they did, and that was remarkable.
It's interesting because when I think when I first met Ruth, it was a very kind of a very cold, wet day up in Fife, and your generosity was just meant so much to me at that time, and I think that that spirit has been extended to the whole of the group, really, Ruth. But I know that you've really received something back. What was the word that you used, Irene, beginning with an R?
Reciprocity.
Reciprocity.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so I just wondered, how it's kind of changed the way that you do things and the way that you things as well.
Well, I suppose, I have to confess to being very selfish about supporting Maggie to set up the Stand group, because my job is to make Fife dementia friendly, and dementia friendly communities should be driven by people living with dementia. But when you don't have a clinical job, it's quite hard to find people with dementia to come and help you with things. So Jerry and I met quite by accident and formed a really kind of special kind of tag team, really, Jerry, didn't we? Kind of twosome, and we were touring all over the country, and I thought I was going to wear Jerry out. we were going everywhere and anywhere, doing dementia friend sessions, an hour at a time, and it was pretty full on, actually. So I kind of recognised it would be helpful to have a few other people to give us a bit of a hand. So when Maggie suggested setting up the group, I was all for supporting her with that process, and then hopefully through that meeting other people. And that's exactly what happened. So we were involved with delivering dementia friend sessions to children. Now, I have no experience really of working with children, so I was pretty terrified about doing sessions with kids. We kind of asked Irene if she would get involved. So Irene and Jerry and I had delivered quite a few sessions to local primary schools, and they were just absolutely amazing. And recently, Irene and Audrey both have been helping out with a project they're developing the Riverside and the Leven area. So Irene taught there, Audrey lives there. So there was something about, involving people in that role to make sure that whatever we create is dementia friendly. So for me, the job has just been really enhanced. I wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for people with dementia. And, I feel really that you want to honour people's experience and make good use of that, because in some cases, we won't change things for people in the here and now, but we can change things for the future. And that's a lot about what Stan's trying to do. And one of the things that I think is hugely generous of people is about giving up their time, and also that ability to tell their stories and tell their stories so well. Jerry, this will be, we've got about 3 calls today, I think, Jerry. So, there's all sorts of opportunity to do that. But in telling, that's why I worried about Jerry kind of getting burnt out, because I thought, God, he's doing this all the time. He's doing this all the time. We need other people. But actually, I think you get such a lot out of it. So that reciprocity for me is about the work is enhanced tremendously by people being involved, but also the people involved are enhanced by it. They get such a lot out of it. That kind of sense, I think, of really, honestly, genuinely making a difference. So it's a very mutual, what I would call interdependent relationship. And I think it works. It works really well. We have quite a good time, actually. It's pretty exhausting sometimes, but
I think it's really interesting as well that actually by sharing, being generous with sharing of yourselves and your skills, you give confidence to other people within the group to do that. So I'm thinking about Irene, you got stuck into a poetry project, didn't you? And as a result, well, I'll hand the story over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Well, through the group, I was introduced to the DEEP network, and lots of opportunities have come my way, but one of them was one that you actually suggested, Rachel, and it was a poetry writing group online. It had been designed as a local writing group, but COVID obviously had put paid to that, so they decided to go online and to do it nationally. And I got involved, and honestly didn't think it would, make much of a go of it, but I absolutely loved it. Absolutely was drawn in completely by the warmth and the encouragement and the support from everybody on that project. And yeah, it went from strength to strength, and we still all meet up. We have been published, so there's a collection of poems written by people living with dementia, and who knew that I would ever see my name in black and white in print in a book, and all done in such a wonderfully supportive and magnificent ethos of celebration of living with dementia and still managing to do things. Honestly, a wonderful experience. And as soon as lockdown is over, the network of people now that we're looking forward to meeting up with, because the bonds formed through insecurity probably to begin with, and a little bit of anxiety and nervousness, into real positive achievement. It's been magnificent, and would not have been possible without Stand Group and the DEEP network. So wonderful.
Well, I think it's just amazing that you found your voice again, really, after having been a assistant head teacher, deputy head teacher, to be the love of words, and then finding poetry as a way of expressing yourself has been amazing. But also, it was infectious. Jerry caught on.
Unfortunately, yes, I did.
And Jerry, you've become a very kind of prolific poet now, haven't you? Oh, prolific, that's a good alliteration.
That's a big word. All because of Irene, yeah. I read some of Irene's poetry, and that totally inspired me, and I thought, how amazing. Irene's got an amazing way with words. My poems are probably a bit more common and straightforward as such, like in language-wise, like.
Don't do yourself down. Don't
not at all. But
no.
they do tell a story. But I mean, poetry is something I would never ever thought of getting involved in at all. I mean, it's never entered my life, or never even entered my mind when I was working full time and like that sort of stuff. And it's only through the group and through like Ruth and Irene and yourself that we've met people that have given you the chance to do things. Do things you wouldn't even think about doing. Like, not even just that. With the group Stand, I've started drawing again, which I used to do when I was a kid. I used to love to do that work. And I hadn't drawn for about 35 years, 40 years.
There we are. There's one of your
sketches. Yeah,
that might need explaining.
That's a self-portrait of me, by the way. And I have photographic proof to prove it. Like.
Okay.
But yeah, the group's been great. Just to encourage you to be yourself. Just be yourself. You come to the group. When we could meet face to face, you'd come to the group. You could just sit there and have a chat and eat cakes and sweets and drink lots of tea. If you want to get involved in stuff, you could get involved in stuff. If you don't want to get involved in stuff, nobody judges you. That's okay. Again, never underestimate the power of just being in people's company, and being people's company who are basically walking in the same shoes as you, living your life, is amazing. And I would recommend it to anybody, to be honest.
It's extraordinary, isn't it, that dementia is the thing that brings us all together, but actually it's very often the last thing we talk about when we're together as well. And I think that also, would you have even met each other had it not been for dementia? Audrey, you said something quite remarkable when we were talking about this the other day about how, in a way, your life was better in some ways.
Yeah, I didn't look at it. I look at it that I got it as a blessing now, because I've met such wonderful people and become part of their life. Because when I got diagnosed and I had friends, the friends didn't want to know. They sort of in a back seat. I think they thought, oh my God, I'm going to catch what she's got. So now I look at it, it's been a blessing, no a curse. And I've got wonderful people that love me in my life and want to be in my life. Yeah.
And I guess the attitude of your friends, I guess some of that is based on fear, as you say, but a complete lack of understanding. And I guess, does it kind of inspire you to want to change attitudes?
Yeah, but I don't know.
I think that we've got cards here. Should we go to Irene first and then to Jerry?
Yeah, I would just like to say that Audrey has put that in beautifully into words. I think how each of us feels that, you know, dementia is a little bit of a curse, but an old lady, Irish lady, a friend of mine used to always say that every curse brings a blessing, and you have to look hard for the blessing. The curse is obvious, the blessings are harder to find. And she's right, our group and the friendships that we've made within the group and beyond are definitely a blessing. And from doing the sessions I've done with Ruth, I have learned so much about what people think of people who have dementia that had not been obvious to me before, because like Audrey, a very big part of my world disappeared. People just walked away and have never been heard of since. But working with Ruth and listening to other people's reactions has really, really helped, because it has helped us to understand, you know, sometimes it is an ignorance thing. You know, they don't want to do the wrong thing, say the wrong thing, and so they just avoid you and everything to do with you instead. And I mean, some of the sessions I've been with Ruth, I've met former pupils, and do you know, the human touch in there where they've been like, God, Mrs. Donaldson, is that you? And then suddenly the dementia label doesn't matter nearly as much. You're just this person that's come to talk to them, and it's been fabulous and fascinating at the same time. But I do think I have learned massively why it doesn't stop you being hurt, but there is an understanding now a little bit more about why people do what they do. It's still sad and it still hurts, but I realise now that it's not about me as much as it is a little bit about them. So it's been a very big learning curve.
I think that's a really important point about, just because you're diagnosed with dementia doesn't mean to say you understand it. And actually, you know, we often talk about carers getting an education about dementia and how to support someone living with dementia, but actually you need to know and understand it and support yourself as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Jerry?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Rachel, I think. And what I've noticed with some members of the group, they're quite scared of the diagnosis, to be honest. And hopefully being members of the group will ease that scaredness a bit. I mean, I think we kind of, as a group, we kind of blow away the myth of what dementia really is like. Because I know what my thoughts of dementia were before I was diagnosed. And it wasn't people like ourselves. And I mean, my granny had dementia, and I just remember the bad bits, again, from the end stage and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's what everybody else thinks dementia is all about as well, and it's not. There's a beginning and a middle and an end. The end's not great, but the beginning and the middle bits, you can live absolutely fantastic. And when you meet people like Irene and Audrey and Ruth, Maggie, Richard, all these people in the group, again, Fiona, Aileen, who don't think twice about supporting each other. If you phone them up, they drop everything just to come on to give you a hand, like. Just an amazing amount of people, and you don't find that in normal life, really. I mean, as Irene and Audrey said, I mean, when I was diagnosed, all your friends just kind of walk away. It's probably just, as you say, it's a bit of fear and a bit of ignorance as well, like. But yeah, the group's been amazing in that respect.
And it's fair to say that, you know, some people might say, well, you know, you're all kind of actually, you know, younger stages, early stage dementia, you're living quite well. But you do have people within the group who are a bit further on than you are. And actually your generosity of spirit is so powerful and supportive and generous to people within the group as well. And I think that's, you know, that is really, really powerful. I was thinking about, we were talking about a couple of really big things that have happened within the group, where you've been incredibly supportive to each other. I'm thinking about your partner had an accident, Irene, and there was another couple who were flooded out of their home. Do you want to talk a bit about what people have done within the group to support you on that?
Yeah, my partner, you're in your 60s, you're supposed to get sensible, but he still has a motorbike, and he came off his bike and was really quite poorly. He was in hospital for a week and had a punctured lung and broken shoulder bone and that. And, you know, in a click of your fingers, my whole life changed, because I rely quite heavily on Alan, and I live well at home, but rely on him a lot. And suddenly just found myself thinking, holy goodness, what am I going to do? You know, and without asking, you know, just when I'd let folk know that Alan had had an accident, Jerry and Trisha phoned me every day, messaged me every day, made sure I had something to eat, made sure I was up, made sure everything was going okay, did I need anything. Another couple in the group brought food along, so I didn't have to cook. Cooking's not one of my strengths. Somebody else phoned me every evening to make sure I'd locked the doors, because they'd been burgled, because I'd forgotten to lock the doors. And just, you know, just the check-ins, but the actual physical making sure that I could get through one day to the next and be well and be safe. And then, of course, all the care and concern that came in for Alan was massive. And that helped me, but it also helped him, because I could tell him in hospital, oh, so-and-so's done this, and they've brought me soup, and I've got this to go home to, and Linda's phoning at night. And so he was able to recover so much more quickly, because he knew that all the bases were covered, whether it was somebody in the house or somebody just phoning up or video calling to make sure the doors were locked and things like that. It was massive. I don't know what I would have done. I mean, I would have just probably had to go and live with my sister or something. But I was able to stay in my house, live my life, and he got well and came home again much quicker, probably because he could relax. And yeah, we had a couple who were flooded, completely flooded, and several times actually, and they were just getting back on their feet from one flood when they were flooded again, and the group just rallied around, you know, whatever we had, spare dishes, spare bedding, spare blankets, spare anything, and goodness, they were so grateful to have them, and it helped them tremendously. Alan has been several times each time and fixes the TV and sorts their IT and stuff like that. Trisha, Jerry's wife, she was there in the middle of the night helping them to decant, and you know, people just, without being asked, as soon as they know there's a wee issue or a big issue, pitch in with whatever they can. For some folk it's physically driving and taking you places, for other people it's donating a small item or offering to look after you for an hour or whatever. It's phenomenal. The strength you get from that is beyond, you know, it's difficult to put into words.
Yeah, and there's that feeling about being wanted and needed and being able to offer something back, isn't there? And I know that Audrey, was it Jerry and Alan that helped you set you up with your laptop so you were able to connect?
Yeah, because without Alan and Jerry's help, I wouldn't have been able to get on Zoom. So I was so grateful and knew I like Zooming.
That's a vodka you owe me, Audrey.
So it's, yeah, sorry, Jerry.
I was just going to say, it's not just the big things as well. It's the little things like helping Audrey with a computer, helping people with technology, with Alexa and all that sort of stuff.
You said it.
I did. And just the wee stuff as well. I mean, like Valentine's Day there, we got a wee card from Fiona and Aileen Again, we've sent postcards out to each other just to say hi, how are you doing? Again, you get wee messages. Ruth's great with the wee teddy bears and all that sort of stuff. Again, it's
Yeah.
again, it's the wee bits. Again, but a lot of littles make a a lot, like, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, that kindness. And Ruth.
I wanted to come back to Audrey and Leavenmouth, because I think in the group there's sort of several levels of activism, Rachel, and Irene and Jerry are past masters at it now, but Audrey's being cultivated. She maybe doesn't know this yet. But, the Dementia Friendly Project is kind of being quite locational within Fife, because it's a big area and you can't tackle it all at once. But one of the areas we're going to tackle after lockdown is Leavenmouth, because one of the sessions we did was with young people who are involved as police volunteers there. So they're about to hit the high street in Leavenmouth once we can all get back out and the shops are open again, and they're going to encourage them all to become dementia friendly. We've got this walking area that's being developed along the river, so I'm hoping that Audrey's going to get a bit more involved, you know, in doing some of the different sessions and stuff like that. We did have 1 or 2 appointments, but sadly lockdown put paid to all of that. And unfortunately, over a year, you just kind of lose that sense of connection a little bit. But I'm determined to take the work forward. So there's lots of things to be doing. So, you know, I think that's really important. But there was one of the questions on the chat about how many people are actually in the group. So the stand membership runs to about 30. It's probably about 30 couples, and people are from all over Fife. So the benefit for me is that the people in Burnt Island, for example, or the west of Fife, I can get support from them to do the work there. People like Audrey, Jerry and Irene who are more in the central belt. We've got people up in the St Andrews area. So having connections across the kingdom really helps. So you're not using the same people and abusing them probably all the time. So that makes all the difference really. So yeah, so I think there is something about, you know, there's a lot still to do in Fife. And I think we've got a really good core of people. And also the way that the group works, when we meet together face to face, we usually meet once a month. That was our standard package of support. So we met once a month, and people with dementia had their own conversation, and family and friends go off and have their conversation. So that gives people the space to say and see whatever it is they want. And we've done quite a few activities in there. We've done some painting and, you know, just different things that have been hopefully quite enjoyable for people. Some of the people just want to talk. That was one of the things that we learned quite recently in the group. Some people didn't want to be bothered with the art stuff, so they've just had a conversation. So we plan to get back to face as soon as we can. But one of the other real, you know, generous gifts to us was being able to use something called the Shed in Kenaway. And that over the autumn month was a lifesaver for us, because it meant we could come together face to face. It was only once a week. It was quite informal. It was just really a chat. But I know Audrey in particular really enjoyed that experience. You'd been to the Shed as a child, Audrey, and connected. You knew half of the people that were there. So that sense of being with other people was just so important, really. And I think if we hadn't done that, we might have struggled with this lockdown a little bit more, but at least we had some face-to-face stuff. The other thing that we've done, again, we've been approached by other people to get involved in things. So there's an organisation called the Boom Saloon, who are, they produce a magazine every couple of months, a kind of creative arts thing, and they approached us and invited us to get involved in a creative writing course, which we've been doing since, well, I don't know, about September or something, and we're all involved in that. And that's been hugely interesting. So again, that's another Zoom call once a week. We've had people teaching us how to write poetry, short stories, all that kind of thing. We've got a call this week, and the writer is from Canada, for God's sake. She's coming from Ottawa. So there's a real bonus of Zoom. So again, responding to the generosity that other people offer us has been really, I mean, it's amazing what's out there, actually. So we're all very, what's the word, courageous, and kind of bite these hands quite happily. So, oh yeah, we'll do that, you know. So yeah.
It would be impossible for you to just meet once a month now, really, wouldn't it?
Well, probably. Yeah.
And I think if there's anything that's positive that's come out of this time, is that I think people people frequently used to say, oh, we'd like to meet more often than once a month. And actually this situation has supported many groups to connect with each other on a weekly basis often. And something I frequently hear as well is that you have really got to know each other better, you know, and those friendships have really sort of been forged in a way much more deeply. And I just wanted to make reference to the this feels like a long time ago now that we did this, but we put together this Recipe for Life booklet. As I say, that got Jerry drawing again. And it is available to download as a PDF on the DEEP website from the Stand page. But also I have got a few hard copies left of it. And basically it's a beautiful, it started off as being inspired because we were all beginning to talk about cake quite a lot, weren't we? And I don't know if that's to do with the Charlie Maxey book or whether it was just that we loved talking about cake. Jerry?
Not just talk, unfortunately.
Yes.
Eat lots as well.
Join the club.
Yep.
So when we got the Stand t-shirts made, we had to go for extra large because of all the cake. It started off as a recipe book, but it's quite quickly turned into a recipe for life, and it's just a gorgeous book, isn't it? Really reflecting the friendships and the interest within the group. Jerry.
Yeah, Rachel, you're absolutely right there. The book's it's amazing. It's just full of well, apart from recipes for food and make yourself fatter, it's just people's perception on life, how they met, what dementia means to them, what the group means to them, and yeah, it's something for the future.
Yeah,
I can't remember what the word is now. Maybe help me. Like it's we've left something for the future for legacy. That's the one.
Legacy.
It's a legacy for the future as well. Like,
yeah,
because I know a lot of stuff that we're doing now, and I don't sound sad about it. Probably won't help us in our lifetimes, but hopefully, what we're doing now will be taken on board and help people in the future. Like again, so.
Well, that's an interesting point, Irene.
I was just going to say, Rachel, that I think one of the big strengths of the group is that people living with dementia and their families and carers work together. And I think that's a huge strength, because my experience before that had been pretty much, my mum had vascular dementia, and my experience had been that my mum just went away in a minibus and did things and came back. Then my mum had a wonderful time, so the service was a good one. But I had no connection with that. I didn't have anything to chat to her about, or to follow up on, other than what she was able to share. And that was one of the very important things for me in starting up our group, was that it was a joint project. We were all in it together. And Ruth had said how, when we met face to face, how that was a key part to that. We would spend all time together, but then people living with dementia undertook great fun exercises and activities and things. But our families and carers, they went away and they had a chance to chat to each other, or to hear from agencies about the support that was out there and what help was available and things. And I think that's a really key thing. I think that the journey has been a whole journey, and while it branches off into more individual paths from time to time, but the whole thing is about being together in it together, because to me that is key. I can't always remember where we've been or what we've done or whatever, but that joined up element I think is hugely important, because then we share it together. The book is a wonderful illustration of that, because we've all contributed to the book, partners and husbands and children, and it's a wonderful testimony to the fact that while it is about people living with dementia, it's much bigger than that, and we're all in it together. And that for me is really key.
Yep. And I think, Irene, as well, having both people with dementia and their husbands, wives, partners and carers, as you say, that works perfectly, because they're just as important as what we are. And I think they get a huge amount out of the group as well, and they do. Because I know since joining the group, they have got their own support meetings with Tide, again, during the evenings, which I know for a fact my wife finds very supportive, and she really enjoys that sort of thing. Like, and through our group as well, we've also now started up a support group for children, again, of the people living with dementia. And I know for a fact that my kids love that. That they've got a lot of that, and I know that children from like Yvonne and Willie, and there's the couple from I think is it Dunfermline, Ruth? Their kids come on it, and we had a new one actually down from Wales this weekend as well. Like, so hopefully she got a lot of it as well. Like, but again, I mean, to spread that support and knowledge can only be a good thing at the end of the day, and it can only eventually will over time break the myth about dementia and lead hopefully to better lives for all.
Yeah.
So I've got Audrey.
I think it's been a good thing because I've got a son, Robert, and he was really struggling, and he wouldn't come to the monthly meetings, but knew that he does come, and he's starting to accept it a bit better, and he can see that the help's there, and knew he really likes going. So it's been a blessing for us. Yeah.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. And the question I was going to ask, because I know that Irene, I think you talk about that you were diagnosed 4 years before you found any kind of support. And I'm just wondering about how you think that being part of something like Stand helps you to live better or live well, or, you know, if it's really kind of altered the way that you live your life now. And that goes for, you know, like your son having a greater understanding, Audrey, you know, does being part of a peer support group and being involved and being made to feel like you matter, how much does that make a difference?
It makes a massive difference, Rachel. I was a really lucky person. I've always considered myself very fortunate in life. I had a wonderful life, a wonderful career, a great network of friends and colleagues. And it all changed when the diagnosis came. You know, it just was the way society treated me and treats everybody, I think, that gets a diagnosis is quite difficult to accept. And I had a very difficult few years. I tried to continue to work, wasn't really helped to do that very well. And my life spiraled very, very badly to the point where I spent almost a year in the house. I didn't go out, I didn't do anything. I had no purpose, I had no sense of, I'd gone from running a school to having no value and no purpose in life. And it was awful, it was truly awful for me, but also for everybody else. And my daughter had planned to go to New Zealand. She put all her plans on hold. You know, she refused to go because it was such a difficult time. However, becoming part of the group, it was like switching on a light. Suddenly the realisation, you know, that there was a purpose out there still, that people living with dementia weren't on their own. There were other people sailing the same sea in a slightly different boat, but sailing that same sea and happy to help out and to give us a purpose and a sense of value again. It's beyond measure. I went almost completely from being a hermit and willing to engage with anything to this person who suddenly thought, oh wow, you know, I can live a good life. I can still live a good life. And that's my message. 5, 6 years on, I'm still living a good life. I don't think I would have. I think if I had continued in the way my life was going, despite the best efforts of my family, I could see no point in going on. It was just too different to what my life had looked like before. And joining the group and doing all the things and making the connections I've made, my life has purpose again, and really good purpose. And I have a good life. I like my life. I'm enjoying life. I'm enjoying life. It's a different life to the one I had planned, but I'm enjoying it. And that is absolute credit to the group, to the people in the group, to people like Ruth and to Maggie, and folk like you, Rachel, and the DEEP network, and all the connections that you people make possible, the opportunities you offer us, make life good. I've got a good life.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah, I think Irene's hit the nail on the head there. Like, because when you're diagnosed with dementia, well, certainly in my case, it was just a a series of losses after losses after losses. You lose your job, you lose your driving license, you lose your self-respect, you lose your self-worth, basically. And I know for a fact that if it wasn't for like Sir Ruth and the group, I wouldn't be here today. Like, that's how bad it got. And I would recommend peer support to anybody, absolutely anybody, 155,000%. Like, if it's there, grab it with both hands. Like, you don't have to do a lot. You can just go along to the meetings and sit and have a cup of tea and a blather.
Yeah.
But that,
Audrey.
I think that's the hardest thing was losing my job. But now that I've got Stand, I'm grateful. Yeah.
Got another job now, really, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Ruth.
I think one of the things as well we should probably tell you about is the work that we've been doing with innovations in dementia. Again, another invitation, a very generous invitation to create a self-management course. So 4 of the people in Stand, supported by family and friends, have been creating a course. So it's a 6-week course that we're hoping to run in the summertime. But again, all of that support came from Damien and Innovations. And that, by hopefully running the course, what we're going to do is meet people at the point of diagnosis. And we hope that by giving them the benefit of our experience at that stage, that they hopefully won't have the same sort of pitfalls and face the same sort of challenges that other folk have faced. And what we hope to do is create other groups out of that. I mean, we assume it'll be people of all ages, so we'll maybe create some groups, maybe of older people that will get involved in the DEEP network. So it's like there's been a sort of seed planted, and we're about to develop lots of bunches of flowers across Fife that will become support groups for people in all different areas. So that's something we're really looking forward to. So we hope to run the first course in June, maybe run 2 before the end of this year. And we're hoping to get funding to do that. So fingers crossed. But if not, we'll just do it anyway.
So that's called A Good Life with Dementia course, and the idea behind it is that, and it was first trialled very successfully by York Minds and Voices. And I know that Wendy Mitchell is one of the audience today. So Wendy, who has been a massive inspiration and was one of the visitors to Stand very early on the Zoom calls, but. So I guess I wanted to ask you what it felt like to be actually creating this course from your group. It's back to lesson planning, Irene.
It's been great fun, Rachel. Hard work, because it's a challenge to find, you know what you want to say and you know what you want people to take away from it, but putting it together has been quite a challenge. But we've learned lots about ourselves, we've learned lots about each other, and we're so proud. And we've got a certificate that people get at the end, and I'm wanting one because I'm so proud of what we've done. It has been an amazing thing to do. And as Jerry mentioned, my motivation has been, I don't want anybody else to be in the position I was in. And if this can make a difference to any one person, then it will be fabulous. I mean, we can't do it without the support of the generosity of people like Ruth and Maggie and Damien and all the people who have pitched in and created these very enthusiastic conversations into a very structured programme that we can all take away and deliver and share our stories and our messages. So it's amazing. It's just amazing.
Very.
I think that's where this has all worked as well, Rachel, because we've been happy to accept support from likes of Ruth, Maggie, Damien, yourself. We're quite happy to accept outside support, and they've been quite happy to take us for the ride as well, sort of thing, like, if you know what I mean, and go with the flow. And it's worked hand in hand. I think if we tried it by ourselves, it would never have worked. But because we have a mixture of both professional and ourselves, not so professional sometimes, but it works a treat, and that's probably the way to go, I think, at the end of the day.
Well, I think that that generosity speaks volumes, doesn't it, about people wanting to make life better for other people who are following, with the diagnosis. And, lots of people have learnt lessons from terribly bad experiences of diagnosis or not getting a diagnosis for years. And but I think that generosity of spirit from you about wanting nobody to feel like they're abandoned or, stuck or lost or lose the sense of selves is incredibly powerful. I'm thinking that we're probably, Tessa, heading up to the time where you wanted to take some questions from the chat, because I see that there's been a whole load of things. So I think we've got 63 comments in the chat and 3 in the Q&A, and I've just kind of seen things popping up which have all been very complimentary to you all. So I don't know, Tessa, if you wanted to come on and pick up on any of those, or do you want me to do that? Tessa, hello.
Hi. Shall I pick up a few of them?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Questions. First one I can see is there a Facebook page for the group?
I think, Jerry, you're the boss in charge of that, aren't you?
Yes, there is a Facebook group for the group, but it's only open to group members because that's the way it was decided by the group, because some of the members don't want their names splattered all over social media, which is understandable. But yes, we do have a Facebook page, which we keep in contact with each other as well. We put on events, we have chats about each other, celebrate each other's birthdays and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, but it's good. You
might get inundated with birthday cards now if you open up the group. Everyone will. There is also, Stand have also got a page on the DEEP website where all of their resources are printed, and also the DEEP Network has a Facebook page and a Facebook group as well. And I try as much as possible to share all the different stuff that you're doing. And of course, Stand, will sort of feed bits of news into the DEEP website as well. So it's possible to keep up with Stand, definitely.
Yep.
There's a question about the Recipe for Life book. Is it available to buy? And we're going to offer a link, aren't we?
Yeah, I've got a few copies. So if anybody wants to email me, then I can pop you a copy of it in the post. But I've only got about 12 copies left, and I think we want to keep the ones that are in Fife, really, don't we, Ruth?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Because we only got a very limited print run. There is a DVD as well where you can see Ruth and Irene and Jerry talking with Fiona, who's not with us today, which was originally made because you weren't able to do the face-to-face Dementia Friend sessions. So that's that. So yeah, if you want a copy of the book or the DVD, then email me, Niblock at myd.org.uk, and I'll pop one in the post to you.
Next question, what's the age range of the children's group?
I think the youngest one, well, the girl who came on at the weekend from Wales, that was her first time with us. She was 15, and it was her grandmother who has dementia, living with her at home. The oldest one, I think, is 24. I've never actually asked for ages, but I think 23.
It's 21, Ruth.
Yeah, but Liam's a wee bit older, isn't he, Jerry?
No, I think he's on age with Kieran, like.
Oh, he's age with, so it must be about 23. So from at the moment 15 to 23. But there is another girl who we're hoping to join, and I think she's in her 30s. So it's the adult children, if you like, of the people in Stand. We've not ventured towards the grandchildren as yet. Audrey's got one of the grandchildren, and Jerry's now got one, so we might pick up the younger kids.
I'd like to see Jerry's grandchild join in.
I'll be Irene's job.
The dogs need to join in as well, I think.
Yeah. Question about whether now it's winter in Scotland, less light. Does that make you feel rather more isolated, or does your Stand activity stand you in good stead on that?
I think the winter months do have a detrimental effect on my Alzheimer's. Anyway, I can't speak for anybody else, but it does. But with the help of Zoom, I don't know, everybody in the group doesn't like Zoom, but it's been a lifeline for me, just to get to see Audrey's face and Irene's face and Fiona's face. It's been excellent, and it's made my winter days a lot shorter, I have to be honest. Like, yeah, definitely. I don't know what you think, Irene and Audrey.
Audrey?
I tend not to go out when it's too dark because I come disorientated. Yeah, and sometimes I don't really care where I am. So my family, when it's dark, I'm not allowed to after 4 o'clock in the winter. Yeah, I hate to stay.
Yeah, thank heavens for Zoom then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe we have time just for one more question, and any questions that aren't answered, we'll share the chat with our lovely panelists and try and make sure that they are answered by email. The question was, is there any type of resource or support that you would need to be able to keep these groups going, these wonderful peer support groups?
Can I answer that one, Tess? I mean, I think, to be honest, the group have actually fundraised for themselves. I mean, we have enough money to pay for things like venues and cups of tea and lots of cake. And if that transport, we've got some money from the Life Changes Trust. So I suppose we're conscious of funds that are available out there, so try to access them. But my guess is that this group thinks so much of it that actually they would fundraise and they would pay for things. When we went to the shed, we used to pay £3 and, you know, Linda kept the money and then we used that for our Christmas lunch. So I think the group thinks so much of it. I mean, they can answer for themselves, but I think people, well, I mean, Willie and Yvonne have given us over £1,000 in terms of fundraised income. So, you know, people are doing things. The kids were talking about doing stuff for Stand at the weekend. You know, so I think that they'll probably self-fund. So we'll have money in the bank to keep going. I think it's so important to people that will keep happening.
Brilliant.
Can I say as well, it doesn't cost much, really. I mean, we use the Alzheimer's Centre and we use a shed, which doesn't cost us anything to hire. And as I said, we provide our own cakes and biscuits and tea and things like that, like, and we put money towards it. So yeah, it's not inexpensive.
I think you're all priceless, aren't you?
Yes, definitely.
Irene, did you have?
Yeah, I was just going to say that technology has really helped us as well. And I'm acutely aware that while we all have the technology, it's tricky for some of our group members to access it. And that's been a real strength of the group, because those of us who have been able to use it have helped. And, you know, I'd never heard of Alexa till I met Jerry. And now it's the easiest thing, we all have them and you drop in each other. So even if a laptop or an iPad is a little bit challenging, we can drop in each other and have a conversation just by asking her to drop in on somebody. So possibly not as important when there's no pandemic, but it has been key to us keeping the group alive during the pandemic, and just simplifying it where we can and offering help where it's needed.
Rachel, I think we need to give you the last word because we're just about to finish.
I don't like having the last word. I just wanted to stress how invaluable the role of somebody like Ruth is within the group. And Ruth has funding from her dementia-friendly work in Fife. But did she not have that, then you know, that would be, you know, it'd be a real loss. You know, that role is so important in keeping all the requests coming in and responding to all those and all the admin and supporting people. So although the group itself doesn't actually cost a lot to run, I think actually the infrastructure is really important, and whether that be someone who would be a terribly committed, passionate volunteer, or, you know, what we would love to see is that these groups actually get funded from their local communities to happen, so that there's groups like this one across the whole of the country.
Fabulous. May I ask you to raise your bears, sorry. I really didn't mean beer, I meant bears.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Because Kate wanted to take a lovely screenshot of you all and just lovely. Thank you. I hope that's worked, and of course we'll share that. Thanks.
I have to give a mention to the purple hippos as well.
Oh, the purple hippos. So
yeah.
beers, bears, and purple hippos.
Yeah, and you'll know what the purple hippos stand for when you read the Recipe for Life booklet.
Okay, great stuff. So look, thank you so much. You have warmed us to our very heart and soul. So thank you so much for sharing everything. And what we're going to do is make sure that we share the chat and that we share the link to the video, and follow up the links, follow up with the Recipe for Life and such like it, or just the Good Life course. That just sounds fantastic. Yep. So thank you so much for contributing to this. I want to just remind you about March the 17th, which is the next Young Dementia Network webinar, and its continuity. How important is that for all of us, really, but for people with dementia, just absolutely essential to be able to sort of hook on to something that's familiar and continuous. And the Admiral nurses, young onset Admiral nurses, are going to share what they offer, and I think it's the Barks service, and also a consultant young onset dementia Admiral nurse. So do link in with that. We'll be putting out via social media and news and such like the invites to that. So thank you so much again, and see you all soon.